Okay, so today I'm going to continue playing as blue, and we get the nice blue backdrop, in fact, too. But basically, until the next expansion, we are focusing on these blue and white decks. Still, I'm sort of torturing myself with my two least favorite colors in the game, but I'm actually starting to like blue a bit. I've always liked the one mechanic in it, hexproof, that is so prominent. Right, one of my favorite mechanics in sort of card game history, just as a general standard. Anything that sort of negates core mechanics like trap cards in Yu-Gi-Oh!, Jinzo, or spell canceller, or whatever, like in Hearthstone, the elusive evasive thing that never even had a keyword until like this year. It took them 10 years to add it, but can't be targeted by spells or hero power. So in that basis, I do like blue because I have no choice but to use it sometimes. Even when I was using my green deck, I would sometimes use a few blue cards. But the one distinction there is I would not, like, I better not buy any cosmetics because I have to save 10. I have to save 10k gold for the first episode of the next draft, or the next expansion. This thing I thought was a little more rewarding than what it is. You have to spend 2,800 gems just to be able to do it. I thought you would just be able to do it straight from the thing that you get here, right? Which is like just from doing daily quests. But let's see, when does the next expansion come out? 28 days. So we have 4 more weeks of doing this, I guess. And what I've been trying to fit into these sessions too is the idea that if I win a best of 3, which is not a very high standard, but I guess these decks have been especially bad for that, where I typically haven't won. But if I do win a best of 3, I will be able to basically play Magic Online, which again, most of the time I'm not even going to have time for, but I don't mind fitting in like one game if I happen to meet that condition. So that's just like a little bonus format, because I did finally play that like a month or two ago. I played it for the first time just to try it and open the door for me to do that. But I also don't want to end this as a series because I think that, you know, whatever, it's fine. Like I do, you know, we want to keep up with the daily quests and keep building up my collection and stuff like that. Whereas that's a completely fresh experience online, even though ironically, I built this collection up over the course of like a year of whatever little on and off that I play, and I have like 2,200 cards, right? But then I have about 2,200 cards in that too, Magic Online, just as soon as I made my account. So it doesn't make sense. Like you're getting it just for, you're getting 2,000 cards just for, you know, making a new account, period, like your starter bundle or something that it gives you. Not even for having to pay for it or anything like that. That'll be a free-to-play playthrough too. But I didn't even see anything in the shop in that game that would let you buy it, so I don't get it. You have to just do it from drafts and tickets and other stuff, I guess, but yeah, the business model of these games typically doesn't bother me though, just because of my own minimalistic style and weird way of doing stuff. Like I want to work towards something, and I want to, even if I had every best card in the game, I would still choose to use weird stuff like this. But I guess it's twofold. The fact that I don't have that, and then I do this anyway, it makes it seem like, oh, I'm doing it because I have to, because my collection's not good enough. But there are clearly much better things I could have, or much better things I could have at least built, as in, you know, instead of crafting some of these shitty cards with my wild cards, even some of the rare ones, mythic and stuff, I would rather have made something, you know, that's actually useful and optimal and meta, but I'm just not choosing to do that. So I do the best of 3 with each of these to see which one does better, and then I can cap off by trying. Oh, I think, you know what I said, I'll change the rule set a little bit here. Maybe I should do that next time, but no, well, I'll set up for doing it next time, where I can have multiple, well, I don't have enough wild cards to maybe make that happen, but I can have multiple copies of the same one. So it doesn't always have to be that, oh, I have a different, not only do I have basically only hexproof and ward minions, but I can have multiple copies of the same one. Whereas normally I say I want to have one of each just for the pure variety. Like, for example, you could have, whatever, they'll be like the same statting, but why wouldn't you have just the better one? Right, whatever, lower cost. So like I would have 4 of these just because, you know, 4 of the invisible stalker too. But that's at least a loaded, jacked out start that I like. So this is like my little social commentary of the day. There's this clip going around that I find very interesting within the Stimuli Acme that I guess I should have to address, because why not, right? This is what streaming is all about. It's this girl saying the Hawk Tua thing, right? Where it's like she's trying to spit into the mic, and this is getting like millions of views and all this kind of crazy crap. So the point with that is that basically, I didn't know what it meant even, because I saw it like in text, and I saw it in like different, whatever, being referenced in places. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Is that like some celebrity's name, like Megan Thee Stallion, like Hawk something. But no, it's just how she's like mimicking the spitting sound. But it's like, look, man, I understand society is obsessed with sex, but it shows almost some inhibition, repression sort of standard that because, you know, this is just like a normal thing that, you know, I don't know. It's just like a normal thing that because people are inhibited so much, they want to overcompensate or obsess over it. Whereas if it was more normalized, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, right? It would just be another fact of life, which it is, but somehow it's treated in some different way. This is a pretty good start, at least. So what happens is you basically put yourself in a position where you're constantly overcompensating or obsessing over it for the simple reason that in other ways it's other emphasis is placed on it. So you place like undue negative emphasis, so then it's stigmatized and restrained, and therefore now you place undue positive emphasis, like, wow, it's the end all be all, biggest deal in the world, right? When really it's just a natural, normal thing that's quite simple. And in particular, the spitting, I'm not sure I'm a big fan of anyway, but that's besides the point. There's countless fetishes and different things people are into, but I find that you see that on Twitch sometimes too. Just casually beating a gold player with this. Maybe I don't need to change it after all, but I probably should do that. Right, so in other words, I'll build it optimally within the rule set still, like, but just so I can have multiple copies of the same thing. Right, so for example, I can have 4 of the fairies and 4 of the invisible stalkers, and basically I would just top load it with the lowest cost ones because that's what I keep getting mana screwed on, that so many of them are inefficient and super high cost. But no, like to do with fetishes and stuff, it's just, there's sort of like this contrivance response principle that I always talked about. Like, the reason why somebody does something so extreme or why something is passionately held as a value is often in response to something else. So for example, you're prevented from doing something all day, every day in your work environment, home environment, whatever. So then you overcompensate and try to do it all the more, right? If your life was in balance, you wouldn't feel the need to act out like that. Do not think that I came to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. I don't know if that's a quote from something like Game of Thrones or whatever. I'm kind of out of touch with modern pop culture, so I don't know. Double Invisible Stalker is nice, but I need the lands. And I'm not too happy about it, but I'll keep it. Bro thinks he's me with like an RP quote that I often use for my titles, especially in chess. That's how my modern RP has been. Like, get so stressed out and pissed off about something that you start doing internal dramatic RP lines about it, like Dark Souls 2 or chess or something. It's a Jesus quote? Oh, cool. We don't even need that other guy to quote the scripture now. Nightmare will do it all in one. He'll quote the chess tryhards. He'll quote the Jesus, whatever, the Christian people who are in here. For whatever reason, that one guy always comes in and spams the Bible verses, which I don't mind, but when grief enters, that's always my standard too. It's like, why would I be offended by something when I could just rebut it with my own position? Like, that was always my standard. Like, if something's not true, then it wouldn't bother me, and if something is true, then it's just a redundant statement of fact. Or if something is, you know, false, I wouldn't care. If it's true, I would already know. If it's debatable and there's gray area in opinion, then I'll just state my opinion, or, you know, it's not going to change what I think. So I don't understand the offensive nature that people get so, you know, bothered by every little thing. So for example, I don't know, I don't even want to give an example because then that could be hypothetically offensive too, but like you look a certain way and people say, oh, you look that way. Well, it's one of 3 things. Either you don't look that way, so then you wouldn't care. Like, oh, you look like an ostrich, but you really don't. So you're short and whatever. Your neck is normal size proportionally. But so either you don't really look that way, so it shouldn't bother you, or you do look that way, so you already know it, so it's redundant, or you do look that way and you don't mind that you look that way, so it's okay, or you do look that way and you do mind that you look that way, but you already knew that, so them saying it doesn't bother you. It just makes you more acutely aware of what you already knew. Right, so they're not really giving you any new information. My fucking phone fell down. So this one kind of, I got 20k points. How did I gain so many in a short time? I guess you are in here a lot. Or maybe you already had some sort of leftover. Like, okay, so we have enough to block with the menace. Or no, I don't. Fuck. I could have at least delayed it a little more. You can vote for the Thursday format coming up. You can vote for Among Us if you want. I have a whole bunch of different... There's two polls for Wednesday. Debate format. Do you believe in the creator of the universe? I do not, because it seems like an idyllic standard that people believe in just because it's too convenient and too perfect, right? And there would be no need for it, right? It's more like people just want a sense of purpose or something. It's something egotistical for people to believe, like, you know, oh, God created us in his image and he has all these standards that are, oh my fucking God. If there is a God, he wanted me to lose this fucking game. What the fuck just happened? Shit. That has almost never happened in the history of the fucking game, dude. Not a goddamn thing you can play. But no, the point is that, you know, oh, what are the chances that God exists and created us in his image? And what are the chances that his standards would be exactly the same as, you know, human morality as far as, you know, oh, killing people is bad, hurting people is bad. That's fine as a golden standard or as a basic enforcement, like, you know, we shouldn't do it, fine. But for God, oh, how convenient is it that God would punish our enemies and send them to hell and, you know, reward us by sending us to heaven and punish all the things that we deem illegal anyway, and, you know, all these kind of standards that are so convenient. It's almost just like a placeholder or placebo for human standards in the first place, right? You want certain things to be a certain way, and so you use it as a standard of, I don't know, just basically representing that. Or if you think about it, everything has a purpose. I mean, you can attach purpose to it, but there's a certain human centric view in that. Like, the purpose is just a zero-sum process, right? Like, nature's purpose is to just extend itself. So, you know, human beings will place undue emphasis on a lot of things, like, for example, sex, as I was actually just talking about before. Like, you know, oh, sex is just nature's way of inspiring reproduction. That's why it feels good, and that's why people obsess over it, because it's hedonism. But the reality is that it's just a way to reproduce. And so all that special emphasis is just a result of people's own obsession with their own pleasure, or they turn it into something else because they're, I don't know, it just represents something else entirely. So those are like the two quotes that I always said about it. So for example, what was I saying? Like, how convenient it is that, oh, all those standards align so perfectly, but beyond that, the fact that, I just forgot what I was gonna say, but no, it's almost too convenient. So I beat them in at least one game. Let's try that stupid ass white deck. What was I gonna say? It's like, the way that people view it is along the lines of, what the hell was I saying? You would not need that. I don't know, it's just more, oh yeah, like the standard of aboveness. Okay, so, like, instead of saying that, oh, you shouldn't hurt somebody because of like a golden rule, like treat people the way you want to be treated, or because people say it's wrong, so human beings subjectively say, even if in a collective high number, say that doing this thing is wrong, so therefore you shouldn't do it. But that's just still subjective people saying it. So you could just say the opposite. Oh, I think doing that is right, so it's my word against yours, so then it's impossible to set it as like a true empirical standard. But if you say, oh, well, God said it, now you can't question it. It's like, oh, well, I guess I have to do it now because God is something above the standard of just a subjective human talking to another subjective human and saying that this is wrong. No matter how many of them do it, no matter how well the structure enforces it, it still feels subjective and arbitrary because bro thinks he's me with the hexproof shit. Wait, what is this though? You have hexproof. What? What is this, dude? If Leyline of Sanctity is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield. Not that I even really care about that, because I care more about it for my minions, but I guess it didn't take him that much to really... Oh, wait, I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, it's a way to sort of bypass that critical factor. Again, not saying that you shouldn't follow that sort of thing anyway, like a golden rule or abide by what people want you to do generally within reason, but it just means that it would be easy to bypass it. Now, what the fuck just happened? What is going on, dude? Fuck. The point is that you would basically be in a position... I can't even finish my thought. You would be in a position where... Again, it's your word against mine until you say, okay, let's insert a god into it or something like that. And therefore now the word becomes unquestionable and it allows people to fall in line more. Another question, if you don't believe in creator, then do you believe in the scientific way of creation? I mean, it's not completely a certainty, so I wouldn't say... Well, first of all, you wouldn't need to believe it. It would be more like science is based in knowledge, not belief. But I would leave it up to uncertainty because... Again, this is another human arrogance type of thing. Like, there's so many things that we don't know about the universe and about reality and basic things. And until, you know, only a couple hundred years ago, we knew even less than that. So we shouldn't get too full of ourselves that, like, we have to know all the answers, right? The hardest thing for people to do is to admit that we just don't know. Like, we're just dumb humans who, you know, happen to be a little more intelligent than other animals, but that's about it. Like, we don't have all the answers to the universe, so... Rather than proclaiming some false answer, I would rather just admit I don't know, and there's a lot of questions still, and, you know, there is no complete, perfect theory that explains everything. So that would be fine. And if you trace anything back far enough, you'll realize that there are things you can't explain that way too. For example, I'll actually defend Bill O'Reilly a little bit because there is some meaning to it when he says, tide goes in, tide goes out. You can't explain that, right? The classic meme line. The reality is that he's technically correct because what he's saying at a deeper level, or at least I'll extrapolate, is that you might be able to explain, well, the tide happens because of the moon and this other scientific process. But if you trace that back far enough, okay, why does that process happen? And then why does that happen? And if you trace any one thing back far enough, you'll get to a certain unknown question that why is that thing even there in the first place? Why does it work that way in the first place? And that you cannot explain, right? Like, why does it rain? Oh, because of condensation and precipitation. Okay, fine, evaporation. But then why does that happen? And then why, you know, keep tracing it back. So even if science has an answer, it's always a reactive answer. Like, why does this process work the way that it works? Or like, how does the process work, but not why does it work that way, right? What created it in the first place? What made those substances, the gases, the whatever? So there is no real answer that you have. So I'd rather admit that than pretend like, you know, that you know everything. So that's the difference, right? Science will ask questions, religion will pose answers. So one of them acts like it knows everything and has all the answers. That's why it's so tempting and insidious to believe in it. Whereas the other one will admit the unwillingness to be puzzled in absurdism. Like, it's a lot harder to just admit you don't know. And so people would always try to go with false certainty. So the idea is that, you know, you would ask questions and say, okay, I don't know everything and I have to figure it out. When I lose, it's like so drastically. We get some, you know, magical OTK fucking thing on turn 3. And then, yeah, it's kind of like too convenient. And it, quite frankly, it doesn't even matter in a way. Like, let's say that, okay, it was a result of some black hole, you know, fucking dark matter bullshit, whatever you want to explain it with. Right, why would that affect your life on a regular basis? But the other way does affect your life because then you feel like, oh, well, the creator intended it this way or that way. Or that's one contradiction too. It's like, oh, well, God intended for you to do this and that. But you wouldn't need to believe in it then. It's like, if God intended for you to do certain things or not do certain things, then he would just make you that way, right? It's like God is all powerful. Also, he requires your acknowledgement to be valid, and also he requires you to follow his doctrine to be enforced. In other words, I'm going to give you the option to not do what I want you to do just to try to test you or something, right? But so if he wanted you to not hurt other people or whatever, then why would he let you do it, right? Why not just say, you're made in such a way that you're not physically capable of doing it or something like that. But no, like let's give you the option to disobey me, but then just test you and not make you do it. So on one hand, you're supposed to believe in it as an absolute, but then when you hold it absolutely accountable, like, okay, then I shouldn't even be able to do that in the first place because it's so absolute that he wouldn't want me to do that. But oh no, it requires my acknowledgement and my volition to say I'm not going to do that. But then it's up to me, so it's arbitrary. So you're trying to tell me this absolute being supposedly is at the whim of some random clown like me who can say, well, today I feel like doing something that I'm not supposed to do, and so I'll just do it. So I guess his whole divine plan goes out the window because I just felt like being a dumb clown. Right, that's all it takes to subvert that. Another +1/+1. Vigilance don't really give a shit. We won one game in each of these, so we're gonna have to do another one as a tie break. I don't think I'm even gonna be able to do much of the multiple copy thing, but I'll at least try to do it. And I don't really care about this white deck as much, but I'm just kind of doing both of them together so we can get them over with. Right, I wouldn't want to go through 2 expansions and do one with only blue and one with only white or whatever. Okay, let's see here. You can give a +1/+1, or you can just do this little thing. What is it? When it enters the battlefield, exile. How fitting that we're talking about that while playing as white too, which is kind of a little religious faith based too. Exile. Okay, fine. I don't really care. It's not gonna matter. If there was enough evidence to believe it existed, would you? But then you wouldn't believe. You would know, right? You would no longer need to believe in it. You would just know it to be a fact, but. Again, there not only is there not enough evidence, there's no evidence. The only evidence is that people want to believe it, right? Like from thousands of years ago, you see that as a tendency. What are the chances that people in all parts of the world thousands of years ago all believed in their own versions of the same thing? It's a psychological need that people have that I can respect that. It gives them a sort of structure. It answers a lot of their questions, right? And insecurities and things like that. But it doesn't mean that it makes it true, right? It's more just like a useful... It's a useful ideation that you may have, but it's not exactly an absolute thing. But no, there would be no need for such a thing. 25,000 Greek manuscript from hundreds of years ago that Jesus was a real person. Well, it is a historical fact that he was a real person. That's not really the point. Right, there's plenty of evidence to support that he really existed. That doesn't mean that any of the corroborating stories are true, though.
My purpose is greater than myself.
I didn't know Nightmare was actually into all this kind of stuff, though. Normally it's the other guy who talks about it. If only I had one more fucking mana. Fuck off. Fine, we'll kill that guy just for the fuck of it. We're very capable of getting these people low, and they sometimes can't deal with healing. But, did you watch that new M. Night Shyamalan movie, The Trap or whatever? I haven't watched an M. Night Shyamalan movie in a long time because he went downhill so fucking far. Ever since The Happening or Lady in the Water shit. Okay, dude, okay. I don't know what the fuck this guy is using, but technically the 2 decks don't have a decisive winner. Not that I even have to win the best of 3, but I have to at least... let me actually look that up too. Like, I don't think anybody disputes whether he existed as a person. That's kind of a nonsense argument, right? That he's clearly a person, right? They didn't just make his whole existence up. Now you can embellish and, 6 to 4 BC 80 or 3033. Many names, titles. He was Jewish preacher and religious leader. Central figure of Christianity, world's largest religion. Yeah, Wikipedia wouldn't lie to me. Like, it's saying his birthday and stuff, so it's not like he's just made up. Yeah, I don't know. It's not that I'm into it, but more like I have to help a friend. Not trying to force it on you, because that wouldn't be the Christian way. No, I mean, I find it interesting, but I guess I've spoken about it a lot in the past, so... And I talk about it more generally. Like, it doesn't have to be Christianity or anything specific, but just... And this is always a good way to look at it too. If somebody believes in a particular religion, right? Let's say you believe in Christianity. Does that mean that you're saying that every other religion is wrong? Like, what about people who believe in Hinduism then, or other religions, right? Like, so they're all wrong except for yours, right? That's almost what you would have to believe. Or I guess you could say they just have different names for the same thing and different mythology for the same, belief system. Like, it's just, I don't know. But then that defeats the whole purpose of trying to specify it and give it a name and give it all the details, right? Like, oh, your arbitrary mythology is wrong and my arbitrary mythology is right. If he's real, no, that's that's not what it means, dude. Like, you can be a person who was called, you know what I mean? That's just his name, and that's just, he was a person. That doesn't mean that it validates anything to do with that. Right? That's two totally separate things. A human being with that name existed, and he had certain, experiences, but that doesn't mean that those are tied to all of the other embellishment that happens with it. Okay, so let's see if we can actually win a set outright. We beat a gold player at least in one game. But no, this is the kind of thing I would want like 4 copies of because it's so good early game. I don't even care about the little delay that it has to it. This plus Invisible Stalker is just absolutely god level. Speaking of god. Yeah, I don't think that sort of confusing historical fact with, I guess, historical fiction, right? There's plenty of things that could, I don't know, like, just because somebody exists does not mean everything associated with that person is true that has been said, right? He was just a regular dude who did, well, he wasn't a regular dude. He was a clearly very special, inspirational figure and gifted leader, speaker, whatever. But regardless of that, right, it doesn't mean it validates everything to do with him either. You could do this as if to block, just because he can't do anything else with my mana. This is turning into like my favorite card. This was supposed to be the Invisible Stalker deck, but this is just so good. If you get like 3 of these in the first 3 turns, even their delay doesn't matter. The fact that they, have to wait 3 turns, that's fine. It's a small price to pay. Or you could get rid of that with one simple trick. Just play green, and you can get a 1 mana 3/3 with no penalty at all. Or with some minor penalty like that stupid ass, it lets your opponent play like a land or something for free. So, can I out damage race him? I doubt it. Oh, shit. What is this, dude? I mean, we could almost trade in still, despite that. Oh, my God, dude. That should be fine. I summon a 2/2 white knight. Who am I? Pokemon's moderator? Pokemon's chat? I don't fucking know. We had this. We had the flying hexproof prowess. There was some big controversy with like Pokemon's mod, who was like looking at her illicit pictures, or I don't know what the story was, but just like something weird like that. Like some super fan of yours that is kind of into you, that is, taking advantage of that position, but or admitted to maybe being a little bit too into it. So they're completely in top deck mode. But the 8 damage, what is all this shit, dude? I think I'll be a what? Wait, what the fuck was that? Okay, maybe I couldn't have avoided it then. Okay, let's see what he's saying now. Christianity talks about Jesus claiming he's the Son of God. Islam was not until 500 years after, and talks about him being a prophet and about, it talks about it, but so what's the point though? Just because it talks about it doesn't mean it's true, right? Like, he could talk about anything it wants. I wish I remembered a little more though from whatever time I spent reading that and actually learning about it a little bit. That was like my famous quote as a kid that I maybe just said to myself because I didn't have any sort of format at the time, but just like, I'm not going to dismiss something until I first consider it fully. So for example, I wouldn't dismiss Christianity until I read the Bible, but then again, I don't remember hardly anything from it. I remember like taking notes on certain lines that could be interpreted as like homophobic or other things, right? Certain negative things about about kids, about race, about sexuality, things like that, that would sort of turn people off of it. Like, look at all these terrible things that are in there that you probably don't follow, even if you are a Christian. So I was trying to cancel the Bible before cancel culture was even a thing, like, just to show that, you know, there's a bit of inconsistency, at least with what people would never say that they believe those things, but they also would whatever, they would still swear by it. It would be hard to explain maybe every element of that, but it's also just, it could be somebody very convincing, and again, it shows you the best way to look at this is through the lens of other religions. Study every single religion throughout history and realize, oh, there's a lot of dumb shit that people were willing to believe throughout history, right? And all kinds of different gods. So either they're all wrong and only one is right, or they're all wrong and they're all just based in the same psychological tendency that it gives people a certain peace of mind and comfort and etc., right? That they have some need that needs to be fulfilled, especially when you have less knowledge of the world, because that can be a very scary thing. Oh, look at this, dude. Exodia Soul of the Rapids deck over here. Apparently he just can't deal with it. I love the way that you win with this. Like, if you win, which is not often, what the fuck is going on? Like, it's so stupid and bad. Oh, here we go, dude. Here we go. It doesn't even matter, though, because you could just... I can still finish your dumbass off even after all that. It's just the way they win is like something technical, OTK, crazy combo, this and that. Me, it's just like I'm gonna whack you for 5 straight turns with a flying 5-mana 3/5 dumb shit card. Or yeah, maybe I'll reward whichever one wins by doing... No, I should probably just do that anyway, but clearly I've enjoyed the blue more just because hexproof is kind of a fun mechanic. The white one is just kind of random hodgepodge dog shit. This is always random hodgepodge to do with a specific mechanic that I also like. It's a very strange way to play the game, but I mean, hey, I'm happily still building on my collection, so there's nothing to really question about it. Discard 2 cards, draft a card. I don't think I've even hardly used that effect yet. And I'm not the biggest fan of Ward because it can sometimes be non-factor, especially later on. Kemba's Outfitter. What are you, the Charlotte Hornets wardrobe guy? Haha, kids Kemba Walker. But did he get traded or something? I don't even know where he is now. I think he left, but I forgot where he went. Maybe he must have been hurt or something, because I would have heard something about him. Yeah, we were looking up Jesus. Now let's look up something to do with polyfavoritism here. Kemba Walker. He must have like washed out or something. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about him. Dallas did not play other Pro League Monaco. What the fuck happened? He goes from being an all-star to just totally disappearing. He played for the Boston in 2020 and 21. Then he played for New York in 22. Oh, that's kind of sad. His career just basically ended. He must have had a lot of injuries and stuff. Michael Jordan ruins another great talent with all this shitty management and ownership shenanigans. As bad of an owner as he was great as a player, even from the perspective of whatever, like he finally sold the team now when he finally makes a good draft pick for Brandon Miller or whoever. Keeper of the Flame doesn't seem like an unwinnable game, but I kind of needed more of this flying shit to just whack your face with, and I can't seem to get it. I started off talking about that Hawk 2 thing that everybody's going so crazy about, and the sexual repression and inhibition of society that leads to obsession over such stupid things like that. Anything to do with sex is automatically either funny or novel or impressive or amazing or whatever. No, I don't want to do that. Let's go ahead and block that. But no, it's also maybe the passion with which he says it or something, so... But that's kind of the whole staple of anything. Like, whenever you're on camera... Oh, fuck me. Whenever you're on camera, or I should have saved that to actually block something. whenever you're on camera in front of a mic, like even I am right now, or any streamer at any time, everything is always a little bit artificial or you're putting it on because you're never being totally authentic, right? Because you know you're in front of a camera, mic, whatever. So it's kind of like, even right now, if I wasn't streaming, would I be talking like this right now? Of course not. I may be thinking some of the same things in my head, right? But it's not exactly the same because, you know, you'd be in a position to, you know, you just wouldn't be doing the same thing. So I don't get why people think like that. Oh, look how genuine something is. Nothing is genuine when it's in front of a camera or mic, like, and it's fine. But there's a performative aspect because you know that people are listening. You're doing it for their benefit or whatever. So we won one game with that. So the first set tied. Now this one we can see. Talks about Jesus, not until 500 years ago. You can cast a card that actually isn't in your hand. You'll see something. You know, it's a little faded purple thing outline to show that you can play it, which maybe you could like really blow up the screen with that by having like 100 cards like that you could potentially play. Right, like how much would it just shrink down and minimize to try to fit the screen? Let's see which of these two is really the victor between the two best of three, and then I'll try to mess around with the deck a little bit. Or maybe I should just do it next time. I'm too tired to even bother. But I'll try to make one with multiple copies of the same card just to show like, okay, that's going to be a little better. It shouldn't be that hard though. Maybe I'll try to do it. Just please don't be another tie. Like either go 0-2 or actually win. And even if you do, I'm still not going to play online, so it's always an option. Right, like, or it should make it so that I play it next time instead of this, but then I still want to do this overall. Yeah, whenever people can't explain something, they try to come up with some sort of other explanation, like some sort of false answer to give them comfort and structure and all this kind of stuff. Right, with respect to all these sort of false certainties that people find appealing, the unwillingness to be puzzled is just like a general concept in philosophy. Like, I don't know, it's something weird because, like, even in my case, I'm not going to pretend like, you know, throughout earlier points in history that I would say stuff like that, where there is a certain temptation, right? We're at a point in history now where at least you feel like, you know, there's enough certainty about the world that you don't have to be that desperate for some answers, but there's still a lot you don't know. So you don't have to make assertions and say that the alternative to a belief system would be some sort of absolute answer to everything, right? That's the whole point. Only a belief system would have absolute answers to everything. You can just acknowledge that, yeah, you genuinely don't know, and there's a lot of things you still want to figure out, and so you're open-minded and open to asking questions, rather than asserting answers and saying, oh, you can't dare question it, or whatever, making absolute certain assertions that were made like thousands of years ago, even though what we do now is not at all in line with that. Right, it's inconsistent too, because like whatever machination process would invalidate sort of a previous belief system, because you would say it from a perspective that, you know, would some older god or whatever want you to use modern technology? Would he want me to be playing Magic the Gathering right now? Would he want me to, you know, put some kind of processed foods in my body? Would he want all these kind of other things? So it's very hard to assume, right, that would be at all the case, like all these things, but we just accept them blindly because that's what modern technology does. Is it just creates like an assembly line process for everything, and everybody just kind of goes along with it in a zero-sum progression sense. But right, it's hard for me to believe that these older systems would acquiesce to that. Like, you're kind of just, you're doing it in a reactionary way. Whatever is the case will have to fit into it, so you'll kind of you'll retcon it, right? Like they retcon the Bible into, oh no, this is what it actually meant, just to try to fit with modern standards, even if, right, even if it wasn't like that at all. Oh my god, this dude's a clown. He's a clown. He won't let me play anything. Oh, boo-hoo. That means the white deck is going to lose the best of 3. So now we get to claim victory with the blue deck over this one in this episode, even though it doesn't matter for anything. But I'll try to make like multiple copies of the same card in that particular deck just to show that it's going to be a little better. Some of the lower cost stuff especially. Not even that I'm not a fan of big cost cards, but it just takes me too long to get there, and there's too many of them, and they're too inefficient statted that it ends up not really working, for the simple fact that you're not able to you're not really able to get to that point, so you just end up losing. You get kind of mana screwed, land screwed. Dig through time. Why is it called that? Because it'll take them a fucking century to actually do it. Oh my god. Yeah, that whole element is compelling too. Like how many different belief systems there might have been throughout history. You know, you would have to say like, oh, every other one is wrong, or they're somehow in some convoluted way they're all talking about the same thing, but in vastly different ways and interpretations. But to me, it just speaks more so to the psychological need that it represents, rather than the actual presence of you know, that doesn't necessarily validate that it's true. It just means that people want to believe it. Sort of the non-accountability of history too. If you could maybe go back in history and see all these things in greater detail, or study them even a bit more to what we know, you might see, oh, these people had flaws and they were just, you know, making stuff up as they went along and all these kind of things. So you might be a little more skeptical, cynical about it, and it wouldn't feel so absolute. But like you're deferring to sort of a time where, oh, people couldn't explain things that were happening, so things might have happened that they couldn't explain at the time. So now we'll take their word for it to say, oh, it must have been divine intervention or this or that. Whereas now we might be able to explain those things, but we can't go back and do it. Right, so somebody could go in a coma and then wake up, and then they'll think, oh, they must have come back to life. But realistically, it might have just been, you know, some medical phenomenon that they couldn't explain, or that they didn't know. I mean, this was the most non-interactive game that we've ever seen, because I couldn't do jack all. Yeah, like popularity is never an argument. Like, oh, X number of people can't be wrong, or, you know, they all believe this, so that therefore it must be right. That doesn't really make much of a case. Or, you know, you have to view it from an inherent standpoint. Pretend everybody believed it, or pretend nobody believed it. But still, you have to look at the validity of it. Or even calling something a belief system itself is a knock, because, again, if something is objectively true, you wouldn't need to believe it. It would just speak for itself. So, again, it sort of speaks to a certain need that people have and a certain structure that they seek. So let's see. Even if I can win one of these, I would be able to basically say it's a draw again, and then I would just stop anyway. Too many of these buffs are like till end of turn, which I find kind of dumb. Noodles, why? Because they taste good, of course. Bro thinks he's me and Vanilla WoW, sneaking through the sewers and fucking trying to kill Sylvanas, which was one of the hardest ones to do, actually. Thunder Bluff I actually found pretty easy, because there weren't as many people there typically, and also you could kind of just do it and then jump off, and it was kind of a little isolated and stuff. Like, Thunder Bluff was the easiest. Undercity could be pretty hard, and Orgrimmar could be really fucking hard at times. It depends. I, you know, did do it a number of times, so it's gonna have to compare. My whole strategy was like, I would try to do it in a sneak way, like do it very quickly before they really realize what was happening, but that can be pretty hard. Or do it at like some awkward time that there won't be a lot of people there, either because everybody's out raiding, or either because obviously it's just like a weird time that not a lot of people are online at all. I love that claim though. If Jesus is real, then God is real. Like, really, dude? Like, real in what way? Like, no, he's just a real person. He's just some random dude, right? That doesn't mean that it automatically equates to that. Yeah, +1/+1. Doesn't really matter. See, we could win just like on this basis alone, but this dude's got too many things. This is one of those meta cards that we see way too often. I guess you could say this card is timeless, just like the stupid ass Thoughtseize, right? Just everybody uses it in some boring, repetitive zero-sum way, right? The two most common meta cards. Doesn't matter what their deck is, doesn't matter about anything. They're just really good, apparently. Although this one doesn't impress me that much. Like, it's clearly good, but at least Thoughtseize I understand, because you get to just see their hand too and know what they're all about, which in my case will confuse the shit out of them because they don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And even I don't know really what I'm doing, and it's not very good. What? Seal from existence is what exactly? Enters the battlefield, exile non-land permanent opponent controls. Okay. Wait, so did I just waste it and not actually use it on anything? Non-land permanent. Right, let's see if we can't maybe do something with this, but... that's not too bad. Archon of the Wild Rose. For fuck's sake, dude, you can have it, bruh. Like, I can't do anything, dude. And speaking of Among Us, where he was bragging about his channel points, but then he wouldn't actually vote for the thing. It's like I couldn't fit all the options that I wanted to put into one poll, so, or whatever, reward, so I had to put it in two. So it's like, one of them is like all these random games, and one of them is like a second chance at a first, or second chance at a hard mode or something that I would normally not do. So I should do the PvZ hard mode anyway, just because that's the one I want to keep going, but I'm basically trying to turn it into another whatever Wednesday type of thing where I can just do random stuff. Okay, bro. Okay. Still gonna take you an hour to actually do this shit. Oh my god. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the white deck anyway, so it's okay, but whatever. Next time I just have to remember that I want to build a deck that's actually able to have multiple copies of certain things, of anything really. But I won't have enough wild cards to make them, so I have to assume I already have them, which for some of them I probably do. And I want it to be a sort of more low curve where you're able to basically do it in such a way that you get to, you know, have as many copies of the low cost ones as you can. Okay. That's fine with me, dude. I don't even care. That's fine. Yeah, that was an interesting topic of discussion, at least. What else do we have to really look at here? I guess nothing. So blue was still triumphant. Let me just look through maybe briefly. I don't even want to make the deck. I just want to see kind of, do we have multiple copies of the same thing, right, that we could already do? And the answer is, I'm not sure, actually. We have a mythic wildcard actually just sitting there. I'm surprised. I thought we had just wasted one that we had gotten. So like this, we could have two of them. It's not gonna work out exactly perfectly, I guess. Okay, see you tomorrow. Or yeah, if he wants to see me do a debate format. I keep forgetting what options are even in there too. Let me try to see actually. Would it let me? I don't know how it works actually. Whatever. See you tomorrow.